Hi, everyone, and welcome to this session together with Apple that we are hosting. First off, I've got a couple of housekeeping things for you. So my name is Evelyn, and I am coming to you live from Oslo, Norway, which is where our Kahoot headquarters are. So welcome everyone in my awesome office. And throughout this session, if you've got any questions, just put them in the chats and we'll try to get to it. If there are any questions afterwards that we haven't gotten to, just send us an email at schools@kahoot.com and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. For this session, you can download the badge on our webpage, which is kahoot.com/EDU Summit. So again, that's kahoot.com/EDU Summit. And you'll also be getting a certificate in your email in a couple of days, so be sure to check out for that one. If you are live tweeting this, putting it on Instagram, putting it on Facebook, anywhere where you want, just try to use the hashtag Kahoot EDU Summit. That's hashtag Kahoot EDU Summit. And then we'll be able to retweet you and we'll put everything on there. So that's great. At the end of this session, we've got a couple of resources that I will walk you through as well. So without further ado, welcome to the session called Apple and Kahoot, Teaching and Learning from Anywhere. So this session is intended for all educators in grades K to 12 who are looking to make the most out of their Apple products. And with our awesome partner Apple, we will experience how educators can integrate Kahoot with the Schoolwork app on iPad to create engaging learning experiences from anywhere. And we'll also be able to hear the latest features in Schoolwork 2.0, the iPad app to assign work, collaborate with students, and check on student progress. And we'll be able to see how to use the unique flexibility of iPad with Kahoot, Dragonbox, and Poio. And if you're not sure what those last two are, you'll learn about it. And learn about the many resources designed by Apple to support teaching and learning wherever you are. So I am pleased to announce and pleased to introduce to you to Katie Robb, who is the product marketing manager for education software at Apple. We've got Janae Raymond, who is the worldwide program marketing manager at Apple. And we've got Jack Wolf, who is our very own product manager at Kahoot, and Alex Remen, also product manager at Kahoot. So let's get started. And I'm handing it over to Katie. We cannot hear you, Katie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am so excited to be here and share with you some exciting updates that we have for Apple, as well as how well it integrates with Kahoot. And especially in this time where we're teaching and learning from anywhere, whether it's the classroom or in a remote environment, Schoolwork is really here to help support teachers in terms of distributing and collecting schoolwork and using apps with their class and keeping an eye on their student progress. We're also going to get a chance today to share with you some really great teaching resources. So with that, go ahead and start and tell you a little bit about Schoolwork, which is an iPad app for teachers and students that was released in 2018. And in that first release, we really set out to make sure that teachers could easily share resources that they were already using in their class, like PDFs, pages, numbers, and keynote documents. And then on top of that, they were able to take advantage of apps like that they love on iPad, including Kahoot. When they send out those assignments in something that we call handouts, they're also able to see student progress on those activities that they've assigned. With this, Schoolwork has been used by teachers all around the world, and we're really excited to share with you some ways that we've made Schoolwork a really powerful tool for personalized learning. Again, whether you're in the classroom or you're teaching and learning remotely. In the newest design and release, we have a beautiful new update to the UI here. And not only does it look great, it adds really great new features to streamline teachers' workflow and save valuable instructional time. Not only is creating handouts even faster with a prominent view of app activities that you can assign, but we also have a new handout library that helps teachers stay organized. We've redesigned the handout detail view for both students and teachers to present key progress metrics that will really support being able to identify clear actions and next steps for that student. And that includes maybe returning work or asking students to try work again. So with that, I would love to take you into the app. So when teachers have Schoolwork on their devices as well as students, they can log into the app using their managed Apple ID, which is created through Apple School Manager. And all they have to do is tap into it, and they're landing on this view here that you'll see. This serves as home base for all of the content that teachers can assign to their students. What makes this really great is it's a really accessible way to go ahead and get your content really organized and in one view. Students have a very similar view to this. They'll have their classes and their handouts, but right now we're looking at the teacher view. And I know that because I can see the tabs that we've added here at the bottom, including handouts and students. And so we're right now in the handouts view, but if I were to tap the students view here, you'll see a list of all of the students in all of your classes. And we'll come back to that in a second, but I'm gonna go back and navigate to handouts now. From here, I want to point out some really key updates that help your workflow as a teacher. To the left, we've added this really great sidebar navigation. And right now we can see all of the handouts that I've recently assigned as a teacher, but I can also look at my handouts on a class by class basis. And so if I tap math here, you'll notice that I can see all of my handouts that I've assigned to my students for math. But not only that, I can see the ones that are due today as well as ones that are coming due next. If I toggle to completed here, you'll also see all of the assignments that I've marked as complete for students as well. So that serves as a house for all of your handouts for one subject area. Just below that is the library that I mentioned. And within the library, you have your drafts and your favorites. When I tap into drafts, this is the place that all of your handouts that you haven't shared with your students will live. So maybe you were creating a handout and then the next class is about to start and you weren't able to finish it. Just save it as a draft. It'll stay here and you can come back to it, edit it, and then share it with your students when you're ready. In addition to the drafts, you have your favorites. So perhaps you have a handout that you've created for your students that worked really, really well. They're really engaged with the content. They learned a lot from it. It was really meaningful. You can mark it as your favorite here, and then you can make duplicates of it and share it with any future classes or students that you have. And so it's a great way to access those handouts that you want to use time and time again. Just below that, you're going to notice that my organization's name is there. In this case, it's Township Schools. And this is where all of your inactive classes will live. So those are classes that perhaps you taught last semester, or you made a class and you no longer need it. What's really great about this is it preserves all of those handouts that you've created for that class, and it'll stay here, but it won't be bogged down with all of the student data associated with it since those students aren't part of that class anymore. And again, it's a great way for you to quickly make copies of handouts that you know that worked really well for each class. And all I have to do is tap that More button here, duplicate that, and send it off to my students when I'm ready. So that's a good overview of this view here. You'll notice that I have my classes already populated in here, and that's because in Apple School Manager, any classes that are already set up for me as a teacher or a student, when I log in with my managed Apple ID, they automatically pop up here. So I'm ready to get started right away. But if I happen to be an elementary school teacher, or maybe I run small groups, I also have the ability to add classes myself. All I have to do is tap this add class icon in the top right corner here, and I enter some basic information. So let's go ahead and call this small group math. I can add co-teachers to this class. So maybe you have a math specialist or a literacy specialist or a co-teacher that comes in and teaches. You can add them as a teacher here. And what's great is they'll have all the privileges in that class that you do. You'll also be able to add students. And what's great about this is that personalized piece. So you can create small groups by searching for students by name. So you can see me typing in here their names. Or if you have a class that has all of the students that you want to add to it, I can actually just search for that class by name, tap that class, and it'll automatically add all of those students at once. Once I'm done adding students, we've added a feature where you can select icons and a color. Not only does this make it have a little bit more personality, it also helps me distinguish between my classes really quickly. So I already have a math class here, and I use a calculator for that, but that one is blue that's already established. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a pink color and tap done. When I do, it's creating that class for me, and it will pop up here in my classes in the sidebar, and there it goes. And it's ready for handouts to be created here. So with that, we're ready to start creating handouts. And you might say, what is a handout? And that might be defined a little bit differently for every teacher. But for us with Schoolwork, it serves as a way for you to be able to assign virtually any type of resource that you want to your students all in one and send it to go. It makes it really easy to do. You can do that in a couple of ways. The first way that you can do that is just by tapping this card here that says create new handout. But I can also tap this button up at the top right corner that will add a new handout in this way. This modal will pop up. In this case, we happen to be in small group math, so I can go ahead and assign it to them in that way from that class directly. You'll notice it's assigned automatically to the entire class, but I can actually opt to assign this handout to just a few students instead. Again, really targeting that personalized learning. You can go ahead and assign it to just one student if you need to, which is really amazing. You can also add a due date, which you can toggle off if that's not something that you're interested in doing. Maybe it's an enrichment activity that has no due date, or it's just an announcement that you want to make to your students. Go ahead and toggle that off if you don't need it. Once you have your basic information here, you're going to be able to add virtually, like as I mentioned, any type of activity. And you can see here, there's just a breadth of the different types of things that we can add. So not only are we able to add specific activities within an app, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a couple different ways. So I'm going to save that for last. We can also add files from our iCloud drive, photos and videos, either from our Photos app or using the camera. I really particularly love the scan documents feature. We've embedded the document scanner in here. And so if you happen to have that paper graphic organizer and you don't have a digital copy, just use the document scanner. It'll create a PDF version, send it out to your students where they can mark up and annotate it just like they would a paper copy. It's really great, especially, again, as we're learning in different environments right now, to be able to get students the resources that you love that may not be digital at the moment. You can add web page links here. So maybe there's a video you want your students to watch or a website that you want them to check out. If you happen to be using any parts of Google, you can also drop links in here and add that as well. And last but not least, you can ask students to hand in work in the format that works for them. And so it's a really flexible way for them to show how they've learned their skills. And they can also take advantage of that embedded document scanner and scan paper-based artifacts, really making your paper workflow digital and really seamless and flexible, which is really great, again, for the remote environment as well as when you're in the classroom. So this is one way that you can create a handout, but I'm actually going to show you another way to do that because Kahoot has done a really great job of integrating with Schoolwork and Classroom, ClassKit, and I want to show you how you can maximize that. So I'm going to actually navigate out of Schoolwork for a second and head into Kahoot. You may be really familiar with this view and the fact that you can create your own Kahoots. If you're not able to, or you were not familiar with Kahoot, I'm just going to show you. You tap the create button down here at the bottom and you're able to start creating a Kahoot for yourself with questions that you create. For time's sake, I've gone ahead and created my own and started that. So I'm going to tap into here and tap the edit button. From here, you'll notice I was able to give this Kahoot a title and a description. I've added a couple of questions in here and I want to highlight them. As you'll see, I can add a photo that slowly shows itself to the students so that they can make a guess. I'm also able to take advantage of the fact that we're using iPad, right? So not only are they able to tap answers, we can go ahead and use this where they order their responses, which is a really great kinesthetic, tactile way to engage with content on your iPad. Let's go ahead and create a question together. I started this true false question asking, is this a circle? I've created all this content based off of the Apple teacher learning resources that we've provided in terms of 30 ways to be creative. And so that's kind of where, if you're wondering where I'm getting my content, that's where it's from. I'm going to go ahead and tap add image or video. As you can see, you can add an image in a variety of ways, but I really want to showcase how Kahoot has integrated with PencilKit and taken advantage of that feature. So I'm going to tap photos here and add a photo. These oranges are great. And then I can crop this, but I can also draw on it. And what's really great about this is I can annotate and really focus and have my students pay attention to what it is in the photo I want them to take a look at. You can use an Apple Pencil, but if you don't happen to have an Apple Pencil, you can just go ahead and mark it up with your finger. So that's great. Once I'm done, I can tap save and you'll notice all of my drawings have carried over to this image here and just tap save and that adds that there. Once I'm done, I can go ahead and navigate out and tap save. Created my Kahoot. I'm ready to share it with my students using Schoolwork. How do I do that? Tap into the Kahoot that you want to assign. Tap this more button here and then share. When you do, you'll have several options. You tap more options and you'll see Schoolwork pops up. Tap Schoolwork. And you'll notice when you do, a very familiar modal pops up, the handout feature here. And so from this view, you can assign a handout just like you would within Schoolwork, which is really great, expedient, fast. You don't have to be navigating between apps here. You can go ahead and assign it to your classes. Again, you can assign to entire class or just several students. Let's go ahead and assign it to the entire class there. Tap done. Give this handout a name. You can use dictation here. Find shapes in nature. And then, like I said, we can add that due date there. And so let's go ahead and make this one due for tomorrow. But if you wanted to change the date, you just tap that and go ahead and select a date that works for you. With that, you can then add instructions. So again, use dictation here. Complete this Kahoot activity about shapes in nature. And you're ready to go. As you'll see, the Kahoot activity has been assigned down here at the bottom and attached to the handout. When I'm ready, I can tap the blue arrow at the top right corner. If I'm not ready, I can tap cancel and save as draft. When I do, it will go ahead and send to Schoolwork and be in my drafts in my library. So let's take a look at what happened here as I saved as draft. When I go into my Schoolwork app here, I open it up, and you'll notice when I go to drafts, it will pop up here. That Find Shapes in Nature activity is saved as a draft in here. Again, as I mentioned before, you can go ahead and edit by tapping more and edit, make changes as you see fit. So I know that I showed you how to add a Kahoot through Kahoot. I just want to show you one other way that we can do that. We tap the app activity here. And when I do, I'm greeted with all of the different apps on my iPad that I can assign activities to my students to. And so you see just a breadth of activities that are already on my device here. We're going to go into Kahoot so I can show you a couple of other things. Not only am I able to take a look at the Kahoots that are that I've assigned or that I've created, which is under my Kahoots, I can also discover activities within Kahoot from this view as well. And so if I tap into there, you're able to check out all of the different ones that are available. We've added this feature of adding these beautiful thumbnails to accompany the activities, which I think looks really great, but it also helps you quickly distinguish between different activities really easily. If you want to find that Kahoot that you created, you'll notice that it's here already. I have Finding Shapes in Nature is here, as well as that Personify Something that was a Kahoot that I created. In addition to that, I just want to pay attention to the fact that we've also added the ability for app developers to add descriptions. And so not only am I able to see the title of the quiz and the thumbnail, but also a quick description of what that quiz is. So if I can check out whether or not I actually want to assign it to my students. So that's another way that we can assign app activities. I know that document-based workflows are really important, so I do want to highlight this piece here. When we want to attach a file like a Pages, Numbers, or Keynote document, or anything really in your iCloud Drive, just tap Files. And when you do, your iCloud Drive will automatically show here. Any files that you have, you can access in this way. I've already prepared a Keynote, so I'm going to go ahead and tap the Keynote folder and tap the Shapes in Nature presentation that I want my students to do. When I do it, again, adds it to that handout super quickly. One great feature of adding Pages, Numbers, or Keynote to your handouts is the fact that you can really take advantage of the collaborative elements that they offer. And we do this in a couple of ways. First and foremost, when you send it out to your students, you have a few options. If I tap Info, I can ask Schoolwork to have each student edit their own file. And what that means is Schoolwork will make a copy of this document, of this file, and send it out to the students. It'll append the student's name to it and add the due date, which is really great. Gone are the days of lost assignments because there are no names on them, right? You can also opt to have students collaborate on the same file together. So maybe I don't want them to create their own presentation. I want them to work on creating a presentation together about shapes. I can go ahead and do that, and they'll all have access to the same file and be able to edit it at once. The last option is a view only option. Maybe I just want my students to check something out and I don't really need them to edit it at all. I can go ahead and select that. I'm going to go ahead and have my students collaborate together on this one. One other thing that I'd love to mention is that teachers love being able to give immediate feedback. And so you can take advantage of annotation, markup, as well as leaving voice recordings in these files that are Pages, Numbers, and Keynote documents, which is really great, especially if you're trying to give that feedback in a really personalized way and connect with your students. And so That's how we add activities to a handout. And once we've added all of that information in here, I can go ahead and send it to my students. And I just do that with a single tap. I tap the Share button up at the top right. When I do, it's going to go ahead and send this handout to my students. And what's particularly great about this is that it's going to notify my students that they have a handout ready. And you'll notice that that handout has popped up here in my small group math class. And when they open up that handout, they can tap into the Kahoot activity. And not only is it going to show them what they need to do when they tap it, it will open directly into the Kahoot activity itself. So it's more than just being able to assign the app and the activity. It actually takes them straight there, which is a really great way to get them started right away and have no confusion, especially if you're not able to check in on your students and see whether or not they're opening the right app or in the right activity. Once students begin working on that, let's take a look at what you see as a teacher. I'm going to tap this card here. When students begin working on these assignments, apps that have integrated with ClassKit are going to show you different progress data metrics for your students. So let's start at the top here. First and foremost, I see my handout title here as well as when it's due. But as I scroll down, we've added some great visual data here. To the left, you'll notice the All Activities panel. In this panel, you'll see that I have 87% of the activities completed. And not only do I get a quick snapshot of that, I also get further information. I know that one activity is not done, 11 activities are ready for me to review as a teacher, and I have one out that I've asked a student to try again here. To the right of that, you'll notice the student data chart. I really love this. What this does is it tells me about how much time a student has spent completing all of the activities in the handout. What this serves as is a good way to see how much time it takes a student to complete this on average, but also if you have students that might be outliers. So maybe there's a student that took more time than the average group, right? That might be an indicator to me that I need to reach out to that student and give them a little bit more support. Maybe there's students who completed this relatively quickly, and I need to just double check and make sure they didn't rush through the assignment, or maybe they need more challenging work the next time we do a shapes activity. It's a great way to just get a good idea of that. That's the broad way that we check out data in a handout. But just below that, we can get even more refined elements of progress here. So in the student progress panel just below that, you'll see all of the activities that I've assigned in this handout. At the top, we see that Finding Shapes in Nature activity that I've assigned through Kahoot. I have a keynote that I've assigned to my students. And in this case, I've also asked them to turn in a picture of a square that they see in their house. So those are all of the activities within this handout. 2 of them are indicated as ready to review, meaning that all of the students have completed all of the activities in there. Let's take a look at Kahoot more deeply so that you can get a good idea of the types of progress that you can see. So within this Kahoot activity, I know that 100% of my students have completed this activity because it says so here by 100%. I'm able to see that on average, students spent about 3 minutes completing this app activity. And I also get a normalized score. I know that on average, students scored about 85% here on this task. If I'm not interested in the score and I want to see how much time everyone spent, I just tap the filter button here. And when I do, I can select time spent, and you'll notice these percentage scores change to minutes, which is a great way to see just how long did Emily spend on this assignment. I just want to double check, right? I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to score. So we see that all of the students' data is here and what their scores were on this specific quiz. But if I tap that student's avatar, I get even more data related to that student. So not only do I see that Emily scored a 60% in comparison to the average, how much time she spent, how much progress she's made in this activity. If I scroll, I can also see which questions she got correct and incorrect here. And this serves as a really great way for me to check in on what she may be having challenges with and experiencing barriers to, or things that she's done really, really well with and experienced success with. When you're doing an error analysis and you want to tailor your instruction, it's a great way to get a snapshot of formative work that the student is doing to inform how you're going to proceed with providing personalized instruction for that student moving forward. So once I've reviewed that work, I can do a few things. If I tap the More button next to Emily's name, those 3 dots, I can send her a message maybe she hasn't submitted this work yet and I want to check in with her. If I tap send message, the iMessage panel shows up right in the app. So I don't have to navigate out. I can just do it here and it automatically populates this with the information so that I can message her directly here. I can also mark this as viewed. And when I mark it as viewed, it's just a record keeping way of telling myself, hey, I've already checked out Emily's work. I don't have to check it again. The last thing that I can do in this space is ask Emily to try again, which is really great. So I can ask to try again by tapping ask, and then I can give her instructions on why I'm asking her to try again. We know students being asked to do something multiple times can be frustrating, and so giving more context is really great. We've been working on this a lot. I'd love for you to try this one more time. Once I've added those instructions, I can just tap the share arrow. Emily will get a notification that I've asked her to try again, and she'll have an opportunity to do it one more time. One more thing that I'd like to highlight in this handout detail view, in addition to what I've just shown you in Kahoot, is what happens when students submit files. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the pictures my students had submitted. Not only do I know which ones are ready to review here, I can also take a look and see that they're the thumbnails that are associated with their submitted answers, submitted work. But on top of that, I can go ahead and tap this and see directly what they've assigned. And so what makes this really great is that I can then mark this up and give some feedback here. So I can say, this looks like a circle. When I'm ready, tap done. And then my feedback is on that. My markup is there. I can tap the more button and return that to the student. And when I return it to the student, I'll get a notification saying that that assignment is completed and they're going to get this feedback, and tap continue. And when I do, it'll return it to Emily. Emily will know that I've returned the work. She can check out the feedback that I've given her in the file that I've assigned that she has. One other way, now that we've looked at the handout detail view and how we can look at student data, is to go back and check out one more way we can look at students' work. So as I mentioned before, we have the Students tab here at the bottom. And when I navigate there, I get a list of all of my students here, and I get a snapshot of what they're doing and not doing. But if I want to focus in on a specific student, I can. Let's tap into Emily, and I'll see not only the handouts for the math class that she was assigned work for, but all of the classes that she has enrolled with me. And so I can see, like, is she having a hard time submitting work with all of her work, or is it just certain subject areas? It's a good way to get a holistic view of the student. And just like within the handout detail view, I can tap any activity and get more information, just like I showed you in the handout detail view, which is really great. On top of that, I'd like to highlight in this view, not only are you able to send a message to Emily directly here, you can also FaceTime her here. Again, this is a great way, again, to not have to navigate out of the tool. You can do it directly from here. It'll send Emily a notification with the FaceTime. It'll initiate that, and you can have some one-on-one conversation and support with her there. Messages and FaceTime are only available if your district or site has enabled this, and so it'll only show up if that's something that your district allows. So that covers our demo for Schoolwork within the app. But since we're here, I'd like to share just one more thing around student data. So we know that student data is something that is really important that we want to kind of highlight and look at. And so I'd like to share with you the types of student progress that can be shared. At minimum, apps that have enabled ClassKit and student progress will have time spent shared with them, but they can also report binary values like yes, no. I kind of showed that with you with Kahoot with the not yet and pass. Points earned can be reported, progress percent, which is also showed in Kahoot, and the score percent is also something that can be reported. We know that student data and privacy is really important. Apple takes that very seriously, and so there are some requirements for student progress to be reported. First and foremost, students must use their managed Apple IDs in order for that progress to be reported. Schools need to intentionally enable student progress within the app on their end through Apple School Manager, and teachers have to assign that activity in Schoolwork. And so let's say that a teacher assigns the prologue to Romeo and Juliet to a student, and then the student reads The Great Gatsby on their own time. Only the data related to the prologue of Romeo and Juliet is visible by the teacher and the student. Anything that they did outside of that is not being tracked, because we're only interested in the assignments that are assigned to that student, as well as the fact that teachers are the only ones that can see their student data. So that's really important to note. It is a really key feature that I think that folks should be aware of, and I think helps make sure that students are and data is we're mindful of that. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off to Alex, because he has some really great things to share with you about Kahoot. If you have any questions about resources, we'll go ahead and share more resources about how you can get started at the end of this session. But I'll go ahead and hand it off now. Alex?
Thank you, Katie. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. My name is Alex. I'm a product manager here at Kahoot, and I'm really excited to be here together with you guys from Apple. Really proud about our partnership and our integration with Schoolwork. It's a really great integration where we're certain about the privacy of the students are being taken care of, and you can also follow the progress of identified learners. So that's really great. What I wanted to give you now is a short demo, a couple of short demos on how you can save time with the Kahoot app, and then a couple of reasons why you should let your students use the iOS app, the Kahoot app on iOS. Right, so let's go ahead. If I said, what is the fastest way to create a Kahoot that is well adapted for your class, then I think the answer should always be, let's find something that exists already. And we have 50 million public Kahoots that you can use. So we're gonna go ahead and search and look for Kahoots that exist already. So I want to search for something broad, first like American history, and then you can look at these filters. They are based on what the content that we have. So you will always find something if you tap any of them. So let's go and look at some American Revolution Kahoots. And then I want to drill down to get something more specific. So let's see if we can find any grade 5 Kahoots. Great. So let's have a look. What I typically want to look for here is a length and make sure that it covers the subject that we have gone through. You can also open and look at the answers and look at if there's images. Images are great for keeping the engagement. Students really care about that. This one didn't have that many images, but this is a bit shorter. 14 questions, great. So if I want to adapt this for my class, the best way to do that is to actually duplicate this quiz. And then you can go and edit and remove questions that you haven't covered yet. For instance, we haven't covered this one, then I want to go and delete this one. You can delete as many as you want. It goes really quickly. And you can scroll through. You can also tap the preview button to see what it looks like. And Katie, of course, demoed how you easily can add questions. So this is really the quickest way to get something that is specific for your class by using our huge library of Kahoots. So the next demo is going to be about why should your students use an app instead of a website. And the best reason that I can give you is because we can personalize the learning experience for them. So here I have an example where this student is playing Biodiversity and Ecosystems Challenge. So he has played 3 out of 5 questions, and he's going to resume that now. I'm going to play the last 2 questions. Which are the following are international, right? So I don't know, I'm gonna guess these 2. This is a multi-select, so I'm gonna choose 2. Let's see if this was correct. Ooh, this was wrong. All right. Let's go ahead with this, the last question. Where can you find biodiversity? Let's see. I'm pretty sure that there's some there and there. All right. This was only partially correct. 2 out of 3. So I've now completed my challenge, but I haven't completed my learning. So we believe that the students learn the most if they actually repeat everything until they have answered correctly to all the questions. So we end all games in the app by asking the question, do you want to complete your learning? And you can go, we're going to try that out now. And you will see that I'm getting this question again. So let's answer this. I am pretty sure that was one of the correct answers. Great. But I missed the Paris Climate Agreement. Great. Okay. So this one, where can you find biodiversity? All right. So let's answer these. Great. So now I have 4 out of 5 correct. It's going to continue until I get everything correct. All right, so now, and you see that it randomizes the answer order, so it's not about remembering the position. Yes, great, I got that one correct. So I completed my practice, and now it's out of my way. I've done my learning for now. So that was one reason why your students should use the app. But then there's another one that is, we just launched a brand new way of studying with the Kahoot app. So let's have a look at the random Kahoot. I really like chocolate, so have a look at this one. There's a new button next to play. So play is where you will find the existing game modes. So you can have either a challenge that is self-paced or a live game that you can do by video or in class. But next to the play button, there's a study button. And here you will find flashcards, practice, and test yourself. And also a way that your students can play together using challenges. So these study modes are brand new, and let's have a look at the flashcards. What it does is actually show the question on one side of a card and the correct answer on the other. And it will it's more about the student learning on his own. He doesn't have to play a game. It's more about remembering. So this is great for learning new content or repeating something very difficult. So now I don't remember this, so I'm going to study this again. What it's going to do then is to put it on the bottom of the pile and show it to me at the end. So this, great, true. All right, I got it. I've got it. And this works for all the question types that we have. I can also have a look at the image. If I want to, I can swipe. All right, great, I got it. Great. Great. So the practice mode, you saw that earlier. It's basically the same thing as a challenge, but there is a very important distinction. There is no competition and there's no timer. So it's really self-paced. There's a very low pressure and it's perfect for learning. And it's very good for younger students, but also very difficult subjects. So great. And it will also repeat the questions until you get everything correct, just like we did at the end of a challenge, which is also after a live game. So then the last study mode above here, test yourself, is a study mode where your students can actually unlock prizes, and they will play against virtual opponents, and if they beat all of them, then they will unlock a prize. And this is timer based, and you have to beat them, so you have to be pretty quick. I didn't know that. All right. So the last thing that I wanted to show you is something that is coming at Back to School, which we announced in the first session in the kickoff, and that's that we're going to launch study leagues. Study leagues is a way for your students to gather in groups and play games together. And in this example, we have 10 students that are grouped together studying geography together. And anybody in the group can add games. That's super easy. And they can also have a look at their leaderboard and that where you can apply filters. For instance, here I'm looking at the last month. And we hope that this will really make studying more fun and more social and really unlock the potential of the phones that they're using all the time. So that was it for me. And I'm going to hand it over to Janae, who's going to present how to bring creativity into learning.
So the great thing about iPad is all the different apps that come not only built into iPad, like Pages, Numbers, Keynote, Clips, GarageBand, all these things that help you be really productive as a teacher and for the things that you need to do, but they're really great put in the hands of your students. They create a really inclusive experience for all of your learners. And not only are those multimodal functions really great for creating best practices, but the huge advantage is that they are not dependent on Wi-Fi. So that's really great to make sure that the learning happens no matter where it's where you need it to be. There are so many other apps that come with iPad, like Notes, voice memos, Safari, reminders, all these things that really help you be productive with your everyday tasks. But we know that the really great thing about iPad is that it can become anything you need it to be. 1 minute it's a digital studio. The next minute you have a frog dissection right in your hands, a telescope, so many more things. With over 180,000 apps that have been created just for education by education software developers that are available in the App Store. And part of that is apps like Google Docs or Google Drive, Microsoft Office, Dropbox, all those things work great on iPad as well. Now, when we talk to teachers around the world, we see that them using iPad, they're inspired, their students are inspired, they're engaged, they're doing really, really powerful hands-on work. We've also heard from teachers that iPad has really helped them seamlessly transition to at-home learning because they're able to use it in so many really creative ways. So students are staying engaged and they're taking ownership of their learning. In fact, in a recent Gallup survey, 75% of educators agreed that technology-based lessons were more likely to help students develop critical thinking skills and problem-solving skills, help them connect to the world around them. And it also added that when teachers modeled creativity, when they felt when they were empowered to be creative, that students saw that creative process modeled, and so they were more likely to embrace those challenges that required creativity on their own. So we've spent a lot of time over the past few months really curating resources to help you keep learning creative and, most importantly, active while you make this transition to at-home learning and flexible learning environments. So all of these materials are curated on our remote learning page. Some of them are newly designed to meet this new learning environment that you're participating in. And other things are things that we support teachers with every day. They're just now more useful than others, like the Apple Teacher Learning Center. We've curated special app collections, our curriculum and tools for teachers, activity ideas, ways to connect and be inspired, and some extra resources to help you with your IT teams as well, to help set up devices. We've also added some additional ways that you can connect directly with Apple for additional support. Now, as you can see, that's a ton of resources that's on this page. But I'd like to go ahead and take just a couple minutes to highlight a few that are in particular that are really helped designed to meet this, to help you with this transition. So one thing that's actually not on our remote learning page because we just released it are these quick guides for learning with Apple. So go ahead and jot this URL down and make sure you take a look. It's a single PDF that's comprised of multiple one-page guides, things like organizing iPad for learning or managing screen time, as you see here, ways to help students stay connected through storytelling. We've heard that already teachers are really taking advantage of these guides to really share with their parents at home to stay in touch and to stay engaged and on the same page with the way that they're creating the learning environment. Another resource is this growing series of educational videos brought to you by educators on our staff that are part of our professional learning team, working with teachers like yourselves every day. So these videos cover a variety of topics of like going beyond the worksheets, creating really active learning environments, working with your IT teams. We actually just launched a new one last night on building writing and literacy skills. And as you want to go further for your own professional learning, the Apple Teacher Learning Center is a great resource. It has a tremendous amount of different lesson ideas and activities. But one of the really great things that it has is a series of skill building activities to help you really feel more confident with using both iPad and Mac in the classroom and for remote learning. Now, we hope you've already seen our Creativity for Kids and our 30 creative activities. I'm going to breeze through a couple of these because I know we have got one more quick demo at the end of this session. So bear with me. You know, my 4-year-old has been doing these activities. She's been a total guinea pig. She's done almost all of them. But the great thing about the activities is that students are feeling like they're getting to have fun with iPad. They're really engaged in what they're doing. While they're actually practicing and reinforcing things that they would be doing in school. You know, an activity like coloring sheets is both a favorite by students young and old. It's pretty straightforward. You can do it right on the go. But what's great about it is that it makes it not only can you make a single coloring sheet right within the Photos app using markup, but you take that one step further and you can create a fully customized coloring book using some of the templates and pages. From a learning perspective, this is really fun. It's great for little kids, but from a learning perspective, what we've seen teachers doing is using it as a way to think about having students tell stories or describe the character or describe the setting of a story and bringing it back to those reading and writing and literacy skills. We also see that the activities are really fun to layer together. And so for your older students, things like personalizing a portrait can actually become a lesson on learning modern art and giving them a way to create their own modern art. So a lot of these activities were actually pulled from our Everyone Can Create curriculum. And the Everyone Can Create curriculum, if you're not familiar, is it's a series of project guides to develop skills in music, drawing, photography, video. That also comes with teacher guides with over 300 ideas on how to bring these activities into the subjects that you're already teaching. So I encourage you, if you're really looking to help develop skills for older students, to drive into the Everyone Can Create project guides. They're available in worldwide. They're free in Apple Books in 19 different languages. Now, the last resource I want to call out is these curated collections that we mentioned. The most important thing to know about the curated collections that we have in the App Store for remote learning and these at-home studying and learning from home is that any app that goes into a curated collection in our App Store goes through a rigorous vetting process for things like design, age-appropriate content and subject matter, privacy, and most importantly, security. That's important to us, and we know that's important for you, for your students as well. So with that, I invite you to follow us on Apple EDU on Twitter and really join in the conversation with like-minded educators around the world who are sharing best practices, ideas, lessons, and just sharing conversation about this really challenging time that we know we're all going through with learning. So I'm gonna scoot over and hand things over to Jack. We went through that pretty quickly, but you can find all those materials. We'll put links up for them later.
Great. So if you stop sharing, I can take over the screen. So my name is Jack Wolf. I'm a product manager with Kahoot, working with the Dragonbox and Poio teams. You see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Jack.
Perfect. So Kahoot acquired the makers of the Dragonbox math apps and the Poio Learn to Read app about a year ago. What we really love about these apps is how they're just really great games that the kids want to be playing on their own. And learning is just something that happens in the background without the kids thinking too much about it. But the learning is super strong. The apps have been made together with educators so that it takes advantage of the gaming medium to really promote a solid understanding of the topics that they're covering. So let's take a look at how they do this. So this is Poio, a game that helps children learn how to read. So you control different cute characters like Anna here around this fantasy universe. And there's no guide or instructions or things. Kids just figure out everything on their own, which they really love, and they learn the core mechanics in no time at all. And throughout the game, they're exposed to massive amounts of phonics training. And there's also a lot of different activities, like this lock here, that gives us an indication of just how much they've learned up to now. And we use that information so that if they're ready for more challenging content, they'll get that. But if they need more experience and training, then they'll get that. So each of the levels in Poio is actually dynamically generated based on what content fits the child best currently. So the goal of the game is to collect words that you see. A second here. Yeah, here you see these words floating around in this ocean, and you collect them and to fill up the book in the game. And the children really feel that they are the author of this book. It's a really powerful motivation to keep on playing and to finish the whole book. I'm really amazed how the Poio team has managed to find a method where children are able to do this all on their own. We've heard back from parents who didn't really understand that playing around with these characters would help their children learn how to read. Until one day, their child suddenly came to them and started reading out words, which of course they thought was just amazing because the kids haven't been exposed to any other reading training than Poio. Another aspect of Poio that's probably relevant for a few of you is how well it works for children that's struggling to learn how to read. I have a daughter myself who has dyslexia, so I have a lot of experience knowing children that needs extra reading training, but for very natural reasons are very intimidated by everything that has to do with letters and words. And therefore it really warms my heart to hear the stories from parents that reach back to us and tell us how their kids have regained their confidence and start enjoying reading and doing better at school because of Poio. So for all of those of you who think this sounds really exciting, I have some very good news. You can get, watching this, the people who watch this, you can get this Poio for free if you send us an email to contact@Poio and just have the subject at EDU Summit and make sure to say what operating system you're using, if it's Apple or Android. And the game has been a huge success in Norway and Sweden, and it's available in UK and US English, and we're launching Latin American Spanish this fall. And we're continuously updating the game. So if you have some comments on things that you think could make it even better, then we'd love to hear from you. I hope you were able to catch the kickoff for this event this morning, where Jean-Baptiste, the founder of Dragonbox, talked about the pedagogic thinking going into behind the apps that they have made. And I'd like to show you one of these apps, Dragonbox Big Numbers. So it's a game that teaches children long addition and subtraction. It starts off really simple with collecting these apples here. And then you count the apples and convert them to it. And initially the game is very, very simple. It's just this one forest and it's merchant that if you give him enough resources will open up new areas of the game. And again, we've heard back from parents saying that they didn't really understand this app because it doesn't look like math to them. And that's because the Dragonbox team, they didn't make this app for them. They made it for the children. And they actually made an app where kids go from counting apples to being able to do multi-digit additions and subtractions while having lots of fun. So here we see someone who's played a lot, unlocking all the different areas, a lot of different fun activities that you can do. As we see, you have different resources over there. It's not just apples anymore. There's a lot of other resources as well. So the game uses game mechanics from games like Farmville and Heyday, and even Cookie Clicker, if any one of you have tried that one. And it uses these engaging game mechanics to have children do massive amounts of calculations. And it does it in a way where they get a solid understanding of what is quantity, what does it really mean to subtract and add long numbers. Like you see, this is just one of many of the examples that really makes this visual and easier for the kids to understand. So here we're counting the amount of stones we have. So we have 5, 1, 3. So 315 stones, which we probably should be able to buy something really nice for. So here is the world map again, different activities you can do, like fishing. So yeah. And for those of you, and as Jean-Baptiste said in the kickoff, those who registered for the event, they'll receive an email where they can get to try out these apps for free. And I must admit, I've played Dragonbox numbers, big numbers, way more than I can justify being just for resource purposes. So I hope you all will enjoy them as well, and that they'll be useful for you. Yes. Thank you. Back to you, Evelyn. If I stop sharing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jack, for that. It's great. If you stop sharing, then I can share one more thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to again.
There we go.
There it is.
Perfect. So I'm hoping that everyone can see my screen right now, because the only thing that I have left to share is our resources. So if you head over to our website, which is kahoot.com/EDU Summit. So again, kahoot.com/EDU Summit. And you scroll down to the session with Apple, you've got resources there, and you can download your awesome badge that you can share with all of your teacher friends. So be sure to do that. And if you do share it, don't forget to tag the hashtag Kahoot EDU Summit. So be sure to do that. And then thank you so much to everybody who presented, Janae, Katie, Jack, Alex, for taking the time for being here. We unfortunately don't have time anymore for our Q&A session, as we are at 9 o'clock now. But I do want to thank you guys for taking the time to being on this panel with us and explaining every super cool thing with Schoolwork and Apple.